These Sonic characters we all grew up may seem simple on the surface, but behind every hero, villain, and rival lies a story filled with tragedy, darkness, and secrets you probably never knew. When people think about Shadow the Hedgehog, one of the initial thoughts that comes to people's head is just slapping Sonic with a gun and making him edgy. If you are one of those people that do think about that when it comes to Shadow the Hedgehog, you are missing one crucial part of his character which solidifies him as one of the most well-written hedgehogs in all of Sonic. Hey guys, I'm DontDothatShi here, and today we're going to be talking about why everyone misunderstands Shadow the Hedgehog. Now if you guys do like these type of videos, make sure to leave some love, leave a like and subscribe, and just like that we are going to get right into this. Shadow's debut game was given to us in the game Sonic Adventure 2. We learn closely about Shadow's character as a doppelganger of Sonic, two different hedgehogs with two different backstories. We learn that Shadow was a project being created named the Ultimate Life Form. We learn that Shadow was created by someone called Gerald Robotnik, closely related to Eggman as his grandfather, and we learn that Shadow was created with the intent purpose to be a weapon of mass destruction. Gerald, finding this information from Gunn, implements morals and kindness into Shadow's program, such as protecting and being kind towards the world. And Shadow is met with a friend named Maria. Now Maria Robotnik is technically Eggman's cousin, funny to think about that, and Gerald Robotnik's granddaughter. She has been put on the Ark ship with Shadow and Gerald due to her genetic disease, which is more stabilized in lower gravity areas, hence why she is in space. We learn later on, as the advancement of Shadow is continuing, Gunn is starting to get fed up with Gerald's schemes and projects, so they send a mission, and that mission turns deadly. We notice, you notice, they finally shoot her. It's the death of Maria. The mission was to clear and kill all scientists on the Ark ship to erase the evidence of them ever doing such a thing, except for two people escaping. Shadow escapes while being saved by Maria before she meets her demise, and Gerald, finding that, also gets kidnapped by Gunn. Now he gets sent into an insane spiral and starts plotting the vengeance on the world, and implements that into Shadow if he is ever to be reawakened, to take vengeance on the earth for Maria. And we learn that Gerald Robotnik has made his own failsafe for when he is executed by Gunn to take care of the world if he is not there to do it himself. Already in Sonic Adventure 2, we see Shadow's character as compelling as someone that's misguided through revenge and grieving, and a character who has been manipulated by someone he saw as a father figure. Throughout the game, we see his conflict with Sonic and the whole gang back and forth as he makes new friends with Eggman and searches for his deep, and later on to the end of the game when they fight the massive bio lizard, which was the original Ultimate Life Form. But the difference between Shadow and the bio lizard is exponential. As Shadow is more compact and more freely moving, the original Ultimate Life Form has to be wired and is massive and irrational and erratic and lacks no proper conscience. They're kind of like brothers if you really think about it, in the dark twisted sense. As Super Sonic and Super Shadow both go to fight this bio lizard to save the end of the world, Shadow realizes that his purpose isn't for revenge, it is to save the world. Him realizing that, decides to make the ultimate sacrifice. Now Sega was initially going to let him be just a standalone character, and he was going to initially die in Adventure 2, but because the Sega fandom loves Shadow the Hedgehog so much, and they decided to implement him back into the mainline Sonic games, and he is introduced into new games such as Sonic 06. Okay guys, I know it's bad. Now what made Shadow's character so compelling in Sonic 06, he isn't just hell-bent on fighting Sonic. In matter of fact, in the whole of Sonic 06, he barely speaks to Sonic at all. He has his own team and shows leadership with Rouge and Omega, and the main plot of Sonic 06 is to show Shadow's character of he chooses his own path and he isn't driven by humanity's hate. In 06, Shadow learns that in the future humanity turns against him. He's shown a future where he's blamed, hunted, and imprisoned. In most scenarios, most characters would become bitter and turn on the world himself, except for one character, and that character is Shadow the Hedgehog. In a scenario like that, most characters would become bitter and vengeful towards the rest of the world. But we see Shadow's character develop into something more than that. And one of the most infamous lines that he drops in this game is, "If the world chooses to become my enemy, I would fight like I always have." Now people do misconstrue that quote and take it as Shadow being vengeful vengeful against the world again and saying, I will just take it out on the world again. But what becomes a misconception is the last part, I will fight like I always have. He's referring to himself after the events of Sonic Adventure 2. He will fight like he always have. He is implying that he is going to fight no matter who hates him, because Shadow knows himself he's doing what is right because it is right. He doesn't repeat himself in Sonic Adventure 2, seeking a revenge and doing the same shenanigans. And that's what makes his story stronger as a character. Instead of going down to the same level he was, he grows. Now we see him in a few different games every now and then. We see him more every now and again in his own hit-like game, Shadow the Hedgehog, and in Sonic Heroes. We have seen him able to become more of a leader and a person. Shadow in the first game he was introduced to was more of a character that was more alone, kept by himself, and pushed himself away from other people. We learned in the more games he develops a liking to certain characters such as Rue and Omega. He feels like the leader of Team Dark in Sonic Heroes, not because he's loud, but because he's competent. His appearance in Heroes and his games show about his purpose and who he truly is as a person, and that's what makes him such a compelling character. They build up his story even more in the latest game of Sonic and Shadow Generations. We see Shadow still struggling with the effects of Maria and Gerald both dying in the limbo-like space where he's still able to communicate with the two, and he is still struggling to let go until the end of the game. After he defeats Devil Doom, he is able to finally come to terms of letting go and moving past this arc of Maria. And that's what makes Shadow a truly compelling character in the whole continuity of Sega. He isn't just some edgy hedgehog or someone who has daddy issues. He is a character who has grown so exponentially from his debut game that people are still so stuck on it and they still want him to be that character. But Sega has shown us that he is no longer the edgy hedgehog he never was to begin with. I think Shadow isn't cool because he's edgy. He's cool because he's one of the few Sonic characters who actually grows. What if I told you the worst character isn't even Sonic the Hedgehog? Not even any of the main villains, but instead his closest friend. Tails miles per hour. Hey guys, DDS here, and today we're going to be talking about how scary Tails the Fox truly is. Introduced in 1992 in the hit game Sonic 2, we are introduced to Tails. Now, what about Tails makes him so impressive is his building abilities and techniques. At the age of 8, this guy is able to rival the speeds of Sonic on foot. And not only is he able to match Sonic's feats physically, he's able to match his arch nemesis Eggman's feat mentally. Now, what makes this so surprising is that his age is only 8, and he's able to show his advance in technology through the later games. Now, moving a bit more forward into the Sonic longevity, we move to Sonic Adventure 2, where it highlights Tails' sheer dominance in technological advancement. We see Tails able to manipulate his intellect to create the Cyclone. Now, the Cyclone is a mechanized weapon which is able to fly, boost, and shoot, the best thing, rockets. Now, what makes this mech so interesting, it is a revamp of his tornado plane. Now, if you don't know what a tornado plane is, it is the biggest staple of Tails' technology. This is an aeroplane which is able to have two different forms. One form which takes flight and the other one which forms a X formation which is able to battle, which we have seen Sonic and Tails both use in previous games. Now, bringing it back to Sonic Adventure 2, Tails was able to create and manipulate chaos energy, an energy so delicate and powerful, and able to make a fake Chaos Emerald. Now, what makes this fake Chaos Emerald so important is the fact that Sonic was able to use it to conduct Chaos Control. Now, Chaos Control is the ability to manipulate chaos energy and teleport. Basically, an instant teleportation, like an instant transmission from DVC. And what makes this so influential and impactful is, if it was not for Tails' Chaos Emerald, Sonic was able to manipulate the fake Chaos Emerald and able to use Chaos Control learned from Shadow. Now, if Tails was not able to make that emerald, Sonic would not be alive currently in this show. He would be dead. And if we really want to get to how terrifying this character is in terms of intellect, is we were going to bring it to Sonic Generations. Now, Sonic Generation takes place in a space-time limbo with the Time Eater, which his name is very self-explanatory. That nigga eats up. But what makes this foe so scarier to the rest of the cast of Sonic's villains is his time manipulation. He is able to send characters into a space and time that doesn't exist anymore. A limbo-like space. And Tails, being able to use his older self and his younger self at the same time, were able to explain the theory of manipulating time and space using the Chaos Emeralds. Well, they did change it to the Time Stone, but I'm going to keep it to the OG Sonic Generations because the Time Stones do get a bit confusing. Not only is Tails able to replicate the Chaos Emerald's energy, he can also use it to manipulate mechs. Now, if this guy was truly in the government industry and joins with the light of gun, the world as we know it would cease to exist. And this is why I highlight how scary Tails is of a character. Not only can Tails surpass Eggman's 300 IQ, he uses it in terms that no one ever would use it. He's the only canon character to create a Chaos Emerald locator and has such of the knowledge to create things to enhance Sonic's speed in multiple games. I don't think people really understand how bad Tails could be if he decided to go rogue. We've seen examples of Tails doing this in Sonic Prime. I do hate that show, I do not like bringing it up. Without Sonic's presence, Tails turns to the dark side and becomes 9. And we have seen 9 being able to manipulate the time energy to create a distant dimension for himself. And that is only one example of Tails going bad. And I don't think people really realize how bad this could really be for the whole main Sonic cast. Tails could basically rival the likes of Sonic if he really chose to, not only with his powers and his technology, but his intellect alone. The only thing that holds him back is the nigga's 8! I do need to mention that guy is only 8 years old, and his biggest fear is heights. You have 2 tails! Fly! But my main consensus is Tails is a formidable foe not to be messed with. Not only does he have such a high intellect at such a young age, he is able to harness that and manipulate that and other abilities that no other main Sonic crew cast has been able to use. And because of that, I believe Tails can be a dangerous opponent when pushed to the limits. Infinite had everything needed to become Sonic's next greatest villain. He had a terrifying design, reality warping power, and one of the coolest Sonic themes in history. Yet somehow, years later, most fans only remember him as the guy that lost the power of friendship. So what exactly went wrong with Infinite the Jackal? Hey guys, DDS here, and today we're going to be talking about what Sega could have done differently with Infinite's character. If you guys do like these videos, make sure to like and subscribe. I always respond to everyone's comments, and just like that, let's get right into it. We see Infinite's character being introduced to us in Sonic Forces, released in 2017. Around this time, Sonic was in a big recession area, and now with the release of Sonic Forces, the trailers led us to a new villain, Infinite, and through the trailers he actually did look like an imposing villain that could have defeated the likes of Sonic, and that's what made its character so interesting from the trailer. But when we actually play the game, it doesn't feel the same as the trailer. The gameplay and the gameplay mechanics itself is really mid. It's like it's not good, but it's not too bad. They're split into 3 different character types. You have Modern Sonic, Classic Sonic again for some reason, and your character, which you are able to do more platforming and be able to use the Wisp. That's the one thing I actually will give the game on. It did do that part good when it came to creating different characters. You could be anything you want to be. It's basically your own little OC. Now, cutting it back to the main villain of the game, the main villain is actually Infinite. So why didn't Infinite become a legendary villain? His design itself was already something that we haven't seen with many of the mainline Sonic villains, something covered by a mask and doesn't have any witty jokes or comebacks to Sonic and just cuts it to the point. And one new element that none of the other Sonic villains have been able to do yet is the Phantom Ruby. Now, what makes the Phantom Ruby so insanely sick, and till this day I'll give Sega props to this, it's its reality warping abilities. Infinite is basically just a Uchiha if you really think about it. He can just put everyone in a global genjutsu. Anything that is put in his reality actually harms the person. So in theory, if Infinite really wanted to come up to you, throw 6 knives in his reality and it will hit you, you're dead. And that's what made him such an enticing villain in the trailers. We were able to see these abilities in the trailer and not know the full extent of Infinite's powers. And what made Infinite such a compelling villain is one of the first villains to just cut to the chase and eliminate Sonic. We see in the first fight with Infinite and Sonic, Infinite absolutely beats the bullshit off of Sonic to the point where he's now imprisoned to his death sentence, which actually makes this game go into more of a darker territory. But the thing with this game is they don't keep it in a dark territory. Sonic is in prison and he's literally about to die, but they somehow switch up the flow and make it more happier and more family friendly, which I'm not the biggest fan of. If you want to go in one direction, take that direction. I feel like Sega was playing it too safe with this game, with just adding Classic Sonic in just for fun. Bringing it back to Infinite, What makes his character such a potential villain is the fact that he didn't really get that much screen time. Most of the screen time was to the phantom enemies. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't want to fight Phantom, Metal Sonic, Zavok, and Shadow for the 50th time. If this was the game for Infinite, we should keep it to Infinite. And what made his abilities so interesting is to the extent that he could use those abilities. We learn later on in the end of the game, Infinite uses his Phantom Ruby to simulate the sun touching the earth. Which other character have you seen in the Sega mainline time being able to do something like that and be that much of a threat that you literally have to create a rebellion against the Eggman army? And that's what I like so much about Infinite. Infinite is a cool character in theory, but in practical he's not as good. Infinite doesn't even have that much of a backstory. It's kind of weak, and not even in the sense of an ominous villain. It's just like there's nothing to do with him. And in my opinion, I feel like what would make the game, if there was some type of rivalry, instead of Sonic and Infinite, it was between Sonic and your main character. I feel like if they made a rivalry difference between two of the same people that went in different paths to meet again, as Infinite could have been one of the members in the rebellion but did something different and became one of the main villains. I feel like if they had more of a rivalry together than Sonic and Infinite, it would become way more of a compelling story and actually would have had some relevance in adding our OC into the game. But I feel like this game, they played it way too safe, and because they played it too safe, Infinite's character wasn't truly able to be explored. We haven't seen him in another game since 2017 really, so he hasn't even been mentioned because he's basically been defeated. We've seen that Phantom Rubies being used in other games like Sonic Mania to link them two games together, but the lore becomes really weird and wishy-washy. I'm not doing that. The thing about Infinite is because he has such cool abilities and attitude towards being a villain, people want him to return. Infinite isn't remembered because he's a great villain. He's remembered because of what he could have been. Metal Sonic was created to be the perfect copy to Counter Sonic. Later on down the line, Metal Sonic began to surpass that frame and become something more menacing. Metal Sonic, yes, I do have a figurine of Metal Sonic. Look how cool he is. Look, I even got a little Sonic one. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing in my life, bro. Like, I'm actually 20. So it's now known that Metal Sonic is going to be in the new Sonic 4 movie after the post-credits in Sonic 3, and there is a lot of key details that new Sonic fans still don't understand about Metal Sonic. Hey guys, I'm DontDothatShi here, and today we're going to be talking about the dark evolution of Metal Sonic. If you guys do like these videos, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get right into this. Metal Sonic was initially created in the game Sonic CD, and was initially created to extract the biodata from Sonic the Hedgehog to become a perfect copy, but better than Sonic the Hedgehog. We see him being programmed to defeat Sonic and was faster, stronger, and even started to develop his own identity and his own ambitions. Introduced to us in CD, when Eggman created Metal Sonic, he wasn't trying to build another badnik. Instead, he wanted to create a machine capable of doing something that no other robot could do, defeating Sonic. Specifically made by extracting the biodata of the blue hedgehog, Metal Sonic was improved and made to be faster, stronger, and better than Sonic. And through that, he created his own personality and his own determinations. Metal Sonic, starting to understand Sonic's character, actually kidnaps Amy. Instead of charging straight into battle, Metal Sonic uses his battle IQ and proves that he's more than just a fighter, and he kidnaps Amy, using her as bait to lure Sonic into a race. And he follows that strategy more than relying on just pure strength. And while this is all happening, Sonic is trying to fight the events of the past and the future at the same time. The one gimmick in Sonic CD that no other game replicates is different timelines. There is a post in the game which alters the past and the future, and the bad future is when Dr. Eggman and Metal Sonic actually take over the world by using the badniks. Sonic is trying to prevent that from happening by going back and forth into the timeline to try and create the good future. While all of that is happening, Eggman and Metal Sonic are plotting against Sonic. Metal Sonic already sees himself as the perfect copy of Sonic, and what other way to beat Sonic in than a race. We are introduced to this race in Stardust Speedway, one of the best music tracks of all time. Fight me on that, I do not care. And the first real showdown isn't a fight, it's a race through Stardust Speedway. Eggman even rigs the track with deadly lasers and stacking every advantage in Metal Sonic's favor to win this race. Despite all of Eggman's planning, Metal Sonic still falls short, and Sonic escapes and wins the race, and Metal Sonic crashes. The reason why Sonic wins, it isn't because he is just strong and fast. He's able to adapt to his surroundings, unlike defeat Metal Sonic in time. Metal Sonic's programming isn't as capable and fast as Sonic's real-time reaction speed, and it's due to that Metal Sonic falls back into the laser and is eliminated. Metal Sonic was built to copy Sonic's speed, but speed was never Sonic's greatest strength. Instead, it was his ability to adapt and improvise and never give up. And that's why the perfect machine lost to the imperfect hero. But that defeat changed everything. Metal Sonic didn't just fail his mission, he began evolving beyond it. And he no longer wanted to beat Sonic, he wanted to become him. And we see that take later on place in Sonic Heroes. After the defeat in Sonic CD, Metal Sonic disappeared for years and wasn't even in the main timeline games as a main antagonist. But when he finally returned in Sonic Heroes, he wasn't the same machine Eggman had built. While everyone believed that Eggman was behind the latest attack, the real mastermind was truly behind these shadows, or hiding in plain sight. Metal Sonic has betrayed his own creator and locked Eggman away, and took control of his entire robot army. His biggest goal wasn't ruling the world, it was proving that he was the true Sonic. Using his biodata copying abilities, Metal Sonic has analyzed the powers of Sonic, Shadow, Chaos, and countless of other fighters in the different teams that we play. And within every battle that he analyzed, he was becoming stronger and stronger to the point of Neo Metal Sonic. Now, the introduction of Neo Metal Sonic isn't just a stronger version of Metal Sonic, he is the result of years of copying and adapting everything around him. He is no longer Eggman's machine anymore, he is now his own self. We've seen throughout the whole longevity of Metal Sonic has been collecting biodata on the other characters in the whole Sonic cast, and he uses this to become Metal Madness, a monstrous immediate transformation after absorbing more biodata power. And look at this guy is massive. And if you didn't think that was enough, he evolves to a bigger form, Metal Overlord, the ultimate and true life form. By the time Neo Metal Sonic transformed into the Metal Overlord, this wasn't just another boss fight, it was the biggest threat that the heroes ever faced. A cognitive AI that adapts to any of the abilities that old characters use, and had to require all 4 teams to beat this monstrosity. Even with all the 12 heroes working together, Metal Overlord refused to fall. Every attack barely slowed him down, proving how far Metal Sonic had just evolved from the machine that Eggman first built. In the end, we are only left with one option left. Sonic had harnessed the full power of the Chaos Emeralds and transformed into Super Sonic, with the other heroes supporting him. Super Sonic finally broke through Metal Overlord's defenses and destroyed him. It took everyone in the Sonic Sega cast to defeat him. If you see the jump from the beginning where he was introduced to now, Metal Sonic had already proven that he was far more than Eggman's greatest creation, and the next time he shows up, Sonic might not be able to defeat him this time, and it is because of that I am so excited to see him in Sonic 4. Asking any Sonic fan about Silver the Hedgehog gives you 2 different responses. You have one side that takes him as the Mega Me of the Sonic verse, and the other side that doesn't even know he exists. And that makes me think a few questions. Why hasn't Silver been in a mainline Sonic game in 20 years? And that is what we're going to be talking about today in this video. Hey guys, DDS here, and today we're going to be talking about Silver's true potential and why hasn't it been reached yet. If you guys do enjoy these videos, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I always respond to everyone's comments, and just like that guys, I'll get right into the video. We're introduced as Silver the Hedgehog in the game Sonic 06, released in 2006, I would hope so, and we are introduced to him in a futuristic timeline, somewhat similar to Trunks from DBZ. I do see that comment a lot, and it is kind of true in some senses. We are introduced to him in a evil like hell timeline. We have hell, Silver is in super hell, if it could get any worse. Silver has to face the future due to Mephiles releasing Iblis into the world, making the world a fire-like place, named as, what's the place of the city? Crisis City. I almost forgot the name there for a second. Crisis City is the place where Silver originates from, where him and his companion, somewhat companion, Blaze, fight off against the evil monsters in the futuristic timeline. We learn in the beginning of Sonic 06 that Silver possesses psychic-like abilities, being able to manipulate objects around him and make himself float. He's basically just Professor X if he could walk, and had more potential. We meet Mephiles in the futuristic timeline with Silver and Blaze, where Mephiles convinces Silver to go back into the past to get rid of the Iblis trigger. Now, who is this Iblis trigger, you ask? It's Sonic for some reason. We don't even know why. It's not really him, but Silver, being as naive as he is, listens to Mephiles and goes back in time to fight Sonic the Hedgehog. Through going back into the past timeline in the video game, Silver meets Amy the Hedgehog, and they start to bond and build a relationship as Silver is on his mission to find the Iblis Trigger to find the Iblis Trigger. Amy doesn't know that the Iblis Trigger is actually Sonic, well, what he believes to be Sonic. And as they are walking through the city of Sylvania, where Silver meets the Iblis Trigger, Silver standing on absolute business, absolutely dishes 3 flash beam attacks at Sonic. Sonic, being the GOAT, dodges it instantaneously while carrying a gun in his arm. Now if I was Amy, bro, I would absolutely beat these. And as Silver falls down slowly, aura farming, he encounters the Iblis Trigger. Sonic, absolutely not understanding anything Silver's talking about, just sits there and lets him monologue on for a good 5 hours. And Silver and Sonic finally fight.
5 minutes later.
After Silver's done putting absolute belt to ass on Sonic the Hedgehog, he looks at him and asks him, is this a joke? And as they are quarreling, we see behind Elise is getting stolen by but that doesn't matter. And Sonic looks like he's about to be absolutely defeated by the likes of a grey hedgehog. And it looks like to the point where the strongest hedgehog in the world is about to be beaten by a silver copy. For somehow Amy to stop Silver from attacking Sonic the Hedgehog. For somehow Amy preventing Sonic's demise by stopping Silver somehow. But all done and said, we see Silver's character in Sonic 06 be a very naive, manipulative person, and someone that truly just wants a better future for himself and everyone in the future timeline. To the point where him and Blaze do everything possible and even join the likes of Sonic after finding out that Sonic isn't truly the Iblis Trigger. It is Mephiles. And obviously they go back into the future timeline to try and actually fix that, to the point where he loses his cat baddie Blaze as Blaze leaves and technically dies in the future timeline to keep Iblis away from the future timeline. So this guy so far has lost because of a pink hedgehog, lost again to a black hedgehog, again manipulated by a grey-black hedgehog, and lost his bitch. Biggest potential man since Megami. I actually think he's more of a potential man than Megami himself. But that is mainly the one of the only games where we actually get to play as Silver and do Silver things. And it's been 20 years. We've seen him in a few in and off games where he's not a main character, he's a character put in the game. And my question is it for Silver? Like, is it generally it for Silver? Because we haven't seen him in ages. We haven't seen him being a main playable character of a main plot in ages. And we do see in Sonic Colors DS that Silver is living in a better timeline, since obviously the whole of Sonic 06 is a retcon and no one really remembers anything when they do remember stuff in Sonic Generations, but we don't talk about that. It's just wibbly wobbly time chat. I'm not doing that today. It really makes me think Sega just doesn't like Silver the Hedgehog, except for the comics. He does actually have some type of development in the comics, but like that's the only piece of hope Silver fans really have for Silver. Except for that, he's nothing. He's not really got anything. And I was a major Silver fan. I still am a Silver fan. And the fact that he hasn't really been a main point in years, it's kind of disappointing from Sega. And it's like Silver repeatedly sacrifices everything in the games that he has been in, especially Sonic 06, and yet he gets nothing. And I just really wish they made a Silver game. Not even a Silver game, they can make a Sonic game and slap Silver in the sideline. They just want him to be playable. We've seen the fans being able to make Silver more playable in Project 06, and it is a brilliant game. And I just wish Sega could actually lock in and do the same with Silver in the actual game. For years now, Sonic fans have called Knuckles stupid. But if you go back and play the older games, you'll notice something strange. Knuckles wasn't always the dumb one. Somewhere along the way, Sonic's greatest warrior became a stupid punchline. Hey guys, I'm DontDothatShi, and today we're going to be talking about what happened to Knuckles' character. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and comment. I do read them all and respond to them in a day. And just like that, let's get right into the video. Knuckles the Echidna was introduced to us in the game Sonic 3, released in 1993, and we see him as a lone Echidna warrior, the protector of the Master Emerald and the last of his race. We know of him so far as someone that has the ability to glide and punch super hard with his gauntlets. He has been shown as one of the strongest Sonic characters so far introduced to us. And as someone who is the last of the Echidna race, he has grown up alone with no social experience. His entire life has been focused around the energy and power of the Master Emerald. Located on Angel Island, it is the sole energy source that keeps the island afloat. Now the Master Emerald is responsible for the energy of the 7 Chaos Emeralds revolved around the world. And we've seen these Chaos Emeralds being used to power up machines and give Sonic his supersonic form. We learn in the beginning of Sonic 3, Knuckles knocks out Super Sonic out of his form. That itself is an insane strength feat, and not only takes strength, it takes a lot of planning and intellect to be able to cheap shot Sonic in such an angle that knocks him out of his super form. Now some people do say it was a cheap shot, so it's not as impressive, but cheap shot or not, being able to knock out someone that has the invincibility of Super Sonic out of his super form takes a lot of planning and street smarts. Now we learn later on this game that Knuckles has joined the forces with Eggman for the Master Emerald, for him to be betrayed and manipulated by Eggman. Now people do take this as a gotcha moment of, look, Knuckles is being stupid in the beginning of his introduction game, but it's truly not the gotcha moment you really think. We forget that Eggman has a 300 IQ. Not only has Eggman manipulated the likes of Sonic, Shadow and Tails, he's been able to manipulate entire governments towards his bending. So why is the point of him being used against Knuckles a valid point when he has done it to so many other Sonic characters? Now bringing it back to Sonic 3, the true reason why I believe Knuckles was so easy to manipulate in that game was due to his social isolation. We do need to remember that the Echidna clan was wiped out and erased by Chaos, shown to us in Sonic Adventure 1, and leaving no one else but Knuckles. Knuckles has no social interaction with anyone else. We still see him in these games now that he's still socially inept at times and lacks those social cues with other people. Someone that lacks the social identity would be more easier to manipulate than the rest of the Sonic cast. It only makes sense that Eggman was able to manipulate Knuckles into joining the forces with him against Sonic. But to highlight more of Sonic's intellect, we need to deep dive into Sonic Adventure 1. We learn after the Master Emerald was shattered into pieces, Knuckles uses his intelligence to search the world for the Master Emerald shards. He tracks down these Emerald shards and explores through ancient ruins and solves these problems independently without the help of anyone in the Sonic cast. He's able to develop his own plans and locate these shards with such precision it becomes impressive. He isn't portrayed as academically intelligent like Tails, instead takes a twist on his own intelligence. His intelligence in the game shows to be more instinctive and adaptable, more of a street smart approach. We've seen Knuckles able to hold his own against Eggman foes and Eggman characters that other people cannot take for themselves. And Knuckles' character in Sonic Adventure 1 was probably the best highlight of Knuckles being a well-structured character. Now unfortunately after this it starts to do a steady decline. A clear example of this is Sonic Generations and Sonic Boom. Now Sonic Boom is a TV series, I do understand is a different take, but they start to make his character more dumb and predictably stupid. Instead of making him a naive character in the previous games and shows, Sega has now decided to push him into the comedic character trope, which to me kind of defeats the purpose of what Knuckles was truly trying to be. Knuckles isn't just a brute character, he is someone that has deep backstory to do with the lore of the Echidna tribe. I think that's something that they did really well in the Sonic Adventure series. They start to diminish it down in Generations of Knuckles not being able to know what he is doing. That now becomes the stupid character that is known solely for his brute strength and not his ideas and able to track. When was the last time you've seen Knuckles being in the game where he isn't being blatantly stupid? And I don't mean in a sense of him not knowing what he's doing, him actively not doing what he would usually do. And that is my main concern with Knuckles. He isn't as independent as he used to be anymore. He is too close to the group for my liking for him to be this stupid. Now, if they were to make him as smart as he was in the previous game and still be in a group, I would accept that as it is. But as of now, they don't. Sega does not look like they know what they're doing with Knuckles. Looking at Amy's character through the longevity of Sega, her strength is one of the most underrated qualities that she possesses. And her hammer shows exactly that. Her Pico Pico hammer isn't some weapon used to bonk people. It's one of the most interesting weapons in all of the Sonic series. Especially when you can consider that Amy can seemingly pull it out of her own dimensional space. Hey guys, DDS here, and today we're going to be talking about how strong is Amy the Hedgehog. Make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. Before we start throwing numbers around, we actually need to understand what we're really dealing with. Pico Pico hammer is Amy's signature weapon, and unlike any normal hammer, its size isn't exactly consistent due to the hammer space. Sometimes it's the size of Amy herself, but in other games it's shown to be considerably longer and larger. And sometimes Amy just pulls it out of absolutely nowhere. Apparently it seems like a trend for all their Hedgehog characters to have some type of infinite dimensional storage. The hammer itself has been used for much more than simply just hitting enemies. It can be used to perform hammer jumps, spin around to create tornadoes, and uses such as propeller to fly, and even generating enough force to launch herself through air. So we are already dealing with a weapon that doesn't follow normal physics. And to break into the math, we're going to look into the IDW series. In chapter 60, with the fight between Amy and Metal Sonic, Amy jumps onto the building surface and smashes the ground with her Pico Pico hammer, causing the ground section beneath Metal Sonic to crumble and bury him in rubble. Taking into account, we are going to have to take a few estimates. Looking at the ground of the panel, we can kind of estimate that the area for it is going to be around 25 meters cubed. We can infer from Google that 1 cubic meter of reinforced concrete is around 2,400 kilograms per meter cubed. So when we times 25 by 2,400, we get around 60,000 kilograms. That is 60 tons of concrete lying there. If we take our mass times gravity and times the height, which can be approximated to around 2 meters, that roughly gives us around 1.1 million joules. There's the exact equivalent of being hit by 6 2-ton SUVs. And the fact that Amy is just doing this by not even putting any effort into her swing is already a scary feat. And that's not even one of her most impressive feats. Her being able to just do that alone with her hammer isn't only concerning, it's also dangerous. We see her do it yet again in chapter 2 of IDW, when she already makes a crater trying to impress Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, looking into the size of this crater, you can estimate that this crater is around 7 meters. To get the depth and the volume of this crater, we need to do the math. First, we need to do the volume. So we know the volume of this would be around 7.07 meters cubed, and roughly the mass of a rock per cubic meter is somewhere around 2.7 tons if you want to go that way. If we find the mass by doing density versus volume, we can get a whopping 19.1 kilograms. That is already almost 5 African elephants. Taking this into the same gravitational potential energy equation, we also get around a 50,000 joules of force. Now these itself are even not baseline feats, and this is just her swinging her hammer around aimlessly. Continuing on the IDW series, we are back at chapter 2 again, when Amy Rose launches a Egg Walker with her Pico Pico hammer. But how much force is behind that hit? For us to find out, we first need to know the mass. An Egg Walker doesn't have a confirmed mass or canonical weight. We're gonna have to estimate how much the egg robots really weigh. For the difference between the lightweight, the heavyweights, and the medium weight badniks, the average weight is around 100 kilograms. So for us to work out how far the Egg Walker really travels, we can approximate from the image itself. In the panel, we see Amy knocking the Egg Walker into the wall, and is approximately around 2 meters. And here's where things start to get interesting. The Egg Walker reaches the wall before Amy has even completed a full swing of her hammer. So I'm going to use an estimated time of the acceleration of 0.05 seconds. So adding our calculations to find the acceleration, we get 1,060 meters per second. That's around 163 times the acceleration of Earth's gravity. Now using that, we have to think, how much force does Amy need to put to produce that acceleration? We have to take Newton's second law. Taking the acceleration and the mass, that gives us another whopping 160,000 newtons. Calculating the velocity using the acceleration and the time, that gives us a whopping 80 meters per second. That's approximately 288 kilometers per hour. So Amy has just roughly launched a 100 kilogram robot at 288 kilometers an hour. Calculating how much kinetic energy Amy generates through that hit, we also get a whopping 320,000 joules. She's not just giving the badnik a potential tap, potentially throwing in a 100 kilogram robot at nearly 300 kilometers per hour, with hundreds of thousands of joules behind that hit. And that is only just one of Amy Rose's feats. When we look at Amy's strength to the mainline Sonic games, she actually has a lot more feats of strength than people like to admit. And this is not even me getting into her full potential. Her attack potency is actually one of the top 5 strongest in all of the Sega timeline. She was able to do damage to the likes of classic Sonic and Knuckles in multiple events. And in Sonic Heroes, when she was able to defeat Team Sonic as Team Rose herself, and we've seen multiple iterations of her being able to use her abilities to win. A key example of this is Sonic Fighters. Now this is a very funny off game, but Amy was able to spawn a 16-ton weight out of nowhere and do damage to someone by doing that. That is a funny feat itself, but the fact that Amy can just pull that out her ass and that does damage to someone is a very concerning thing to be thinking about. And through all of this, she is still chasing after Sonic. The Sonic cast is lucky that Amy is who she is and not someone that focuses more on doing damage. We see Amy being able to use her Tarot cards to enhance her speed and allow her to glide. This is without even bringing in the Pico Pico hammer. If we can increase the speed, this itself could expand Amy's strength. Because with speed being shortened, the strength and the force being put into something becomes greater. And it's because of this, I feel the Sonic cast is lucky that Amy is who she is. Because if she was to become a threat, not much of them could stop her. Now the recording for the Sonic 4 movie has ended. It made me really think about Sonic's form. And one of the biggest forms that people always hype up is Hypersonic. Hey guys, I'm DontDothatShi here, and today we're going to be talking about, is Hypersonic going to be in any mainline games or in the movie? Now, if you guys do not know who Hypersonic is, Hypersonic, it was introduced to us only one time in Sonic 3 or Sonic 3 and Knuckles, whichever way you like to say. But he was introduced to us only once, and the way that you are able to reach Hypersonic is by getting the Super Emeralds. Now, these Super Emeralds are a manifestation of the Master Emeralds, which is already enough tough to get and unlocks the form of Hypersonic. Now, the difference between Supersonic and Hypersonic is not only the display and form. As Supersonic becomes gold with red eyes, Hypersonic becomes even more of a terrifying threat. He is basically invincible. He's able to fly, flash the screen, which eliminates and evaporates everything on there, and has no real weaknesses, except for the mainline games like crushing or falling off the map. And he was only introduced to us once in all of the canonical mainline Sonic games, and there is actually a legal reason for that. When Hypersonic was initially added into the game, a lot of kids started having epileptic seizures due to Sonic's flashing light colors, and after Sonic 3, he was never added again. Now that could be one reason why he has never been mentioned or shown in any of these Sonic games, but in my opinion, I believe it's too much. It's too much to make a character basically invincible in any video game or movie. And that brings to my concern of the fans wanting Hypersonic to be in any mainline game or movie. And I'm going to home in more on the movie. We just got Supersonic in Sonic 2 and Sonic 3. And if we introduce Hypersonic, I believe there'd be no use for Supersonic anymore. Unless they rewrote the lore to make Hypersonic a different type, I don't feel like they should add it into the movie whatsoever. They've already changed the lore when it comes to the echidnas with the Master Emerald. They still do possess that Master Emerald, but it's for different reasons, and the fights that ended their clan are for completely different reasons. Now, because of that is way more different in the games than the movie. And they do change up stuff a lot with the movie, and I do like that. It's good to take a new perspective. But I think because of that, I don't feel like they should add Hypersonic into the movie. And the more I think about it, is Sega isn't not using him because they don't want to. If they added him, it would just break Sonic's power scaling overall. It would start slowly becoming a Dragon Ball issue with how Goku finds a final form every season. When was the last time you seen Goku actually use Super Saiyan Blue? That's what I thought. And that's the issue. Sonic now has so many forms, it feels like he doesn't use them enough because he just finds the next powerful form. And if we keep abusing that in the Sonic series, all his super abilities, especially the most infamous one, Supersonic, isn't going to be useful anymore. Now, some of the super forms in the show and in the game have situational abilities and situational uses, and those are the only reason why they've been used once. Hypersonic's power doesn't times Supersonic by 2, it squares it. And that magnitude of a strength gap is what is going to ruin Sega if they ever implement him back in Sonic games. Now, bringing it back to power scaling, yes, I know all I do is talk about power scaling, is the fact that people have hyped up so many different forms of Sonic in the game that it kind of takes the relevance and the usages of them out. Hypersonic is a clear example of this, and I don't feel like Sega could really adapt them in any way to put them in the movie without ruining Supersonic. Not only is Hypersonic stronger, faster, and better than Supersonic in every and any way, it would have to make the villain so strong to a preposterous level. Because when you have a very strong main character, you need to level it up with a very strong villain. And if that is not done properly, then you don't have a proper show. And then that show starts to diminish when everyone now needs a upscale in power. And as it is right now, all the Sonic characters are decently fine in their terms of strength, speed, and intellect. And one thing that Sega does do well is keep it at that level. And this is why I believe Hypersonic would break the Sonic movie timeline. It would have to force to explain to the new people watching the movies what these Super Emeralds are and all the different continuities of the Echidna clan which are no longer in the movie. Not only will the movie now have to forcefully introduce new elements and new characters, which should have been at the beginning of the movie timeline if they really wanted to go that route. It would just truly confuse new people coming in to see just the movies. When people talk about Sonic the Hedgehog, they usually talk about his speed, but speed isn't what makes Sonic dangerous. In fact, if you no-clipped into the Backrooms, his speed might be the least important thing about him. Because surviving the Backrooms isn't about how fast you can run, about whether you can keep moving forward. Hey guys, I'm DDS here, and today we're going to be talking about if Sonic can really survive the Backrooms. If you guys like what you're watching, make sure to like and subscribe, and just like that guys, as I run into the video. Now, I just finished watching the Backrooms like a few days ago, and I'm just not gonna lie to you, it was peak. If you do not understand it, you might have a little bit of TikTok brain, but besides that, we are going to talk about more about the movie lore, more than the like 50 Backrooms lore and stuff, so we're going to talk more about that. As of the movie, we understand that the Backrooms is basically just a continual liminal space of different rooms, and the more and more you stay in there, a corrupted version of yourself is remembered and displaced into the Backrooms. Bringing in Sonic into this equation makes it more interesting than possible, because not only is Sonic a strong enough character to leave the backroom whenever he wants, what happens if the backroom remembers Sonic? Now, we see in the movies, the Backrooms is able to scan and remember people and turn them into entities or as still forms, as we've seen before, and the longer you stay in the Backrooms, the more accurate it remembers you as. We see this with Clark in the Backrooms. Spoilers ahead, I should have said that earlier on, but spoilers ahead, we learned that Clark being in the Backrooms for the longest was able to manifest the entity of Captain Clark. We see that as a broad remembrance of what Clark similarly looks like because he's been there the longest out of everyone we know. So what would happen if Sonic was also in there for the same amount of time as Clark? Now, I can only theorize what could truly happen if Sonic was in the background as long as Clark was, and I am going based off the movie and not really there's not an official game, but like not really based off of that and the TikTok stuff. So if you call me a LARPer, I'm not. I watched the movie, I promise. Except for that, knowing Sonic's personality, we know that he comes off as a very cocky character. We've seen it in his mainline games and it shows as someone that is broad and doesn't put down a fight no matter how hard it is. I can see Sonic going in the Backrooms and using it as a place to run as far as he can, because it is a limitless space, and with a limitless space leaves endless possibilities. I probably can't use the song, I might get copyrighted, but imagine I put the song in there. Besides the fact of that, the longer that Sonic stays in the Backrooms, the more accurate the Backrooms will remember Sonic's character, creating a Sonic-like entity. We know Sonic's feats of speed are very impressive yet alone itself, being able to transcend time and fighting characters such as the Time Eater and creatures such as Iblis from Sonic 06. If the Backrooms was able to remember only a fraction of that, I believe that it could pose a problem to not only Sonic in the Backrooms, but any other character entering the Backrooms after Sonic. We've seen with Clark, Captain Clark as the entity was able to speed blitz a lot of different characters. We see him moving slower at the end of the film, but he has been able to show great strength and persistence, even though he did get killed by Mary. But besides the fact of that, we know the entity is a very convoluted character, and we know yet so much but yet so little about him. And if we apply that to Sonic, that could be a great danger to not only Sonic but the main Sonic cast. All we know of the Backrooms movie so far is the fact that the main consensus of the Backrooms is able to go through a single door, a open portal to this Backrooms dimension. Now, I believe even if Sonic couldn't find his way out of the door he originally came from, he would be able to bypass that space in the Backrooms dimension, because we have seen Sonic being able to bypass dimensions in his own game almost easily. So to him, that wouldn't truly be a problem. My main query for Sonic is how long he spends in the Backroom. The longer he spends in that Backroom, the larger of a threat the entity will become. And it brings it down to my question. It doesn't matter if Sonic leaves the Backrooms, it's what he leaves behind. What characters do you think would survive the Backrooms if they were placed into it? I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure guys to like and subscribe, and just like that guys, DDS out. If you guys did watch until the end of the video, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this whole video. This is like 15 minutes, so a like and subscribe would be really appreciated. Don't forget, if you're here this long, type cockroach. And if you do, we'll know you're a real one.